Welcome back to the Jon Gil podcast show. And on this episode, I'm super excited to have on Kimberly Trimmel. She's with Kimberly Trimmel Consulting and Coaching. She is an independent contractor that also teaches the Illinois Real Estate Pre-Licensing and Continuing Education at Real Estate Institute. And she's also licensed and certified by the John Maxwell team. And we're fortunate to have her on today's show, where we're going to be talking more about pre-licensing, about coaching and consulting. So, Kimberly, thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I thank you, Jonathan, for this opportunity, and I look forward to adding value and answering the whatever questions I can that will help your audience. And I'm here to be available to serve.
Well, thank you so much. And Kimberly, in addition to all of the prior titles that I mentioned earlier, you also had a fundamental role within the real estate department. Can you expand a little bit on your role within the real estate community here?
Sure. Several years ago, I was the director of professional standards for the Chicago Association of Realtors. And in that capacity, I oversaw the dispute resolution process for the local association. I also was a certified trainer a certified mediator with the National Association of Realtors, and served as an ombudsman for the Illinois Association of Realtors. So it gave me a lot of opportunity to not only fine-tune my skill set in the world of ethics, but real estate compliance. It also gave me the opportunity to start teaching both locally and then regionally and at the state level. So it was a very enjoyable time.
That's amazing. And, that's great, because that's going to segue us into a lot of different topics that we're going to bring up here, which, we, on one of the prior shows that we had, where I explained on how to obtain an Illinois real estate license. It's actually one of the most popular shows that we have on the program. And it was great that you and I connected, because, it just so happens that you are an instructor at the school that I mentioned on that podcast, right? And that's at the Real Estate Institute.
Yeah.
And can you explain to us exactly your role there and how and how the training is facilitated at that campus?
Absolutely. So basically, as you said, I'm an independent contractor with Real Estate Institute, but I can teach pretty much anywhere, but I really do enjoy teaching there. And real estate has been a leader in the industry. Real Estate Institute has been a leader in the industry for about 25 years in the area of pre-license education. They also offer other trainings as well. But what is really nice is the students have great support. Not that they don't elsewhere, but I do find I enjoy and have experience to support myself as a student, and just great customer service. So the role I serve is I teach pre-license, which is to get your real estate license. I teach continuing education, which is to keep your license. And then I teach post-license CE, which is the next step after you initially are licensed, is that you have to take an additional 45 hours of post-licensing. And so I fill that capacity in teaching across those levels.
That's fantastic. And for anyone that's looking to obtain their pre-licensing, in order to get their pre-licensing so that they can go on to start selling real estate, what can you recommend for them? I mean, it seems like the courses are pretty rigorous. Can you walk us through how the process looks like at that school and some of the topics they're going to have to learn?
Oh, absolutely. So the first thing is decide what's your time frame. Are you trying to get licensed quickly? Are you more of a self-study person? Because that will determine the type of course that you take. Basically, the course is comprised of a couple of things. One is Illinois specific content, which is anything Illinois. So that would be license law, things of that nature. And then there is also the national content. So the national content applies everywhere. things like fair housing and things of that nature. So the course is comprised of Illinois and national, and between the two of them, that prepares a student to be able to test with AMP, which is now PSI. AMP stands for Applied Measurement Professionals. They were recently acquired by PSI. And there's also an Illinois portion and a national portion. So one just has to decide, is this something that I just want to do over the next few months? Or is this something that I hope to have a brand new career come, middle of December, beginning of January, and determine what their time commitment is based on their interest level. Some people want to get it done quickly so they can start a new career. Others kind of modify, it just depends. The schedule runs from anything from self-study, which is where you're doing it all on your own pretty much with support. And then there's some pieces that are offered virtually, to a 2-week course, which is the most intensive course that there is. But at the end of it, in the 3rd week, roughly, they take their final, and then subsequently they take and pass their state exam as soon as they're able to get in. And in theory, a person can be done and ready to practice within about a month, which is amazing. So that is the most aggressive schedule, but that would be for someone that's really, really ready to jump in with both feet. They've got the time, they're really able to commit to reading the material and really owning the content, asking questions, things of that nature. Then there's a 5-week program or an 8-week program. So there's different ways that a person fits into what they're looking for. And it basically would be based on, their time allotment that they have and the speed of how quickly they want to get through the course.
That's fantastic. And then I'm sure that is there a price differential for each of those courses?
I am not, I don't quote prices because I mostly just teach it. I can say that there might be somewhat of a difference. That's something that that one could check on their website. I have a link that directs people I recommend to the website if they want to look at pricing. The other option is simply give the school a call, but there may be a price difference. I just don't exactly know what it is. I can say that people who've gone through the 2-week program, although it's grueling because it's intense, but people who have gone through the program, they've gone on to practice in a very short order, which it's truly rewarding to see students that I've had the pleasure and the honor of teaching. They're now actively out there doing business. So it's like really cool and very rewarding. So yeah.
Definitely rewarding. And would you say, and for the pre-licensing, there's a big difference between your sales. There's a difference between, because I've had this asked several times, the difference between a managing broker, a broker. Pre-licensing will only allow you to obtain your broker's license, correct?
True. Yes. So basically there's a few different tiers of licensure. The first, well, it's not really first. You don't have to sequentially go through these, but let's say somebody wants to be a leasing agent. Then they would become a residential leasing agent. That's a 15-hour program. It only allows them to lease and nothing else, only residential property. And then a person can choose to be a broker. That is a 75-hour program that allows them to lease or sell. They can do residential, commercial, agricultural, industrial, anything, as long as they learn what they're doing in their particular niche. And then there's the managing broker's license. The managing broker's license, that is a higher license, more hours required. But now with the managing broker's license, they can become a designated managing broker, designated by the state of Illinois through the sponsoring broker, and basically the sponsoring broker being the company or the firm. And then they are responsible for training and supervising. So you can come in at leasing, or you can come in as a broker. Fast forward in a couple of years, if you want to have your own company, then you would take the managing brokers class. The times have changed. Years ago, you used to be able to start and then immediately manage an office. Now they've gone back to the 2-year wait time. So you have to be sponsored by a designated managing broker to be trained and supervised. And then you can go through the training and become a managing broker and open your own shop, work for somebody else, do whatever you so desire.
That's fantastic. You mentioned something really important earlier, which was there are no restrictions on the property types that you can sell or represent buyers for, correct? You mentioned either residential, industrial. So right off the bat, the second you obtain your broker's license, you can go straight into commercial. Is that something that you would recommend, or what have you seen is most typical for a starting off broker?
Well, it depends on the market that you serve. So, and it depends on your interest. If I have someone who's a student in Southern Illinois, then they might be surrounded by farmland, right? So that might be an industrial, or strike that. It might be more of an agricultural real estate. I believe that people determine what type of real estate they're drawn to. Like, I love houses. You could probably see the little houses behind me. I actually have ornaments. I love houses. So they're all over the place here. I've got little villages and everything. I love residential. Although I've done a few commercial deals, for the most part, I'm a residential gal. I mean, I'm not actively practicing now. I teach more and consult, but it resonates with you. You'll know. I mean, if you're into property management and you like rental properties, and somebody might get into the property management world. Most important thing is when you are considering where you want to work, I don't mean the firm, I don't mean brick and mortar location, but when you're considering what type of real estate you want to service, then knowing how to move forward with that. If you're thinking commercial and you're interviewing future managing brokers, make sure that they have a commercial division. Make certain that they have training, because it's a different animal. It's not like residential. Same thing for agricultural or industrial. You can't just roll out of bed one morning and say, I want to be a real estate agent, and all of a sudden do industrial, and you've never touched a deal before, or you've never had anybody help you through the landmine, theoretically, of a different niche. You could start with one, and then you could expand through time, because shifting markets require shifting skill set. And so basically you could start one way and develop another skill set, and you could pretty much have a career for life for the most part.
Now, in reference to the state, in reference to the exam that after the pre-licensing is done at your school, or at let's say for this specific example, we're going to continue with the Real Estate Institute. How similar are the questions taken there? How similar are they to the ones that you take at PSI and AMP?
Okay. Well, I mean, the reality is you've got different test writers, right? So if ever I've written a test, or if I've ever written a question, my questions might be different than another instructor's, or another writer. But the good news is that it's all based on the book. Like, there's a book, and as much as people would like to bypass reading it, if you learn the key terms, if you learn the application of the key terms, because it's not going to be a simple linear question, then generally speaking, no matter how the question comes across, a person should be able to answer the question, but it's definition based. It's unlikely, atypical, that you would ever see the same exact questions, for example, in a book, that you would see on a final, that you would see on a state exam. But the concepts, they should be consistent. They should be based on something that you learned in the class. Does that make sense?
No, I mean, it absolutely makes sense. And the reason I mention that is because they do have a way of kind of throwing you off a little bit, the way that the questions are asked. And obviously that's intentional. They don't want to make it too easy, it seems like, obviously. But that's just something that I wanted to point out for the audience. Don't stay up all night studying the answer to the question, of the exam that you took in your pre-licensing course. Understand the concept, go deeper, and understand the actual concept.
Yeah, and then and to your point, be mindful of the fact that people sometimes think that they will be able to, remember the question, and then it's a shoo-in that if they remember that question, that they're going to be able to answer that question when it shows up again. It won't. That's why understanding the concepts. There's something called a distractor, and they're intentionally put in there to distract. So they'll give you they'll take you along a path that you're like really comfortable with. You'll be like, yeah, I know this. And then they'll throw a concept in there that has nothing to do with the question, but it has everything to do with what they're looking for. So a lot of the art of taking the test is understanding the questions. What is this question asking me? Is it a math question? Is it a definition question? Is it one of those questions that it says accept or not, which means they're looking for the false? If they say all of the following are accept, then what they don't want the truth. They want to know the opposite of the truth. They're looking for the false. So in and of itself, reading the questions is a test. And you have to, because you have to stop and think to yourself, what kind of question is this? Okay, I've identified the question. Now, what do I know about this question? Then you jot down, you have a scratch sheet of paper and you can, from the state, and you can jot down, okay, this is what I remember about this. All right, then look at the question again and ask yourself, based on what I know and what this question says, what's the most likely answer? Usually, if a person knows their content pretty well, they'll get the right answer on their own. And then if they look at the alternatives A, B, C, or D, usually what will happen is that they'll be able to they'll find out the right answer because they already figured it out before they started dancing back and forth between A, B, C, or D, which can take a long time and eat up a lot of time in your exam because you only have 3.5 hours with the state of Illinois to take the exam.
Oh, repeat that one more time.
You have 3.5 hours with the state to take your exam. So they give you, they test at certain times. You have a 3.5 hour window for the broker test.
Got it. And okay, interesting. Well, okay, that's fantastic. Now, as far as the passing percentage, is it still 70%? Has that changed?
It's 75% on each piece, but 75% Illinois, 75% national. But generally, they just give you a pass-fail.
Okay.
And if for some reason you pass Illinois but not national, then you'll be given another attempt to take it. The state of Illinois gives people 4 attempts to pass all the components of it, the Illinois and the national. But if they pass Illinois on first attempt, then that means they have 3 more attempts in order to pass national. But they have to pass by that 4th attempt. So that's when they want to show up on their spending to make sure that they do pass.
Got it. And have you seen?
And they're each different tests. They're not the same.
Right. Have you seen that is there a higher success rate on the national versus the state, or vice versa? Where should I mean? I know that the student should.
That's what I've heard, and I've never actually. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no! I think you just answered me.
I haven't heard that there is. I mean, I haven't even inquired, but that's a great question. I generally think people who actually really read the book and they don't attempt to study to the questions, they have a higher probability of passing, at least if not the first time, the second time. I mean, that's been what I've observed.
Got it. Understood. Okay. Now, it's very important now to mention the importance of actually having training after the fact. Because, once you've gotten your broker's license, you're in the field, what a lot of new brokers don't know or understand is that, it's not just going to a brokerage that has maybe like a higher commission split where they're going to probably make, higher income, or let's say a higher split take home on the sales. As important as the commission splits, I would say, is the education and the support that you're getting from your brokerage. Now, you provide consulting and coaching, leadership consulting. Can you explain how that plays a role in the overall success of a new broker and a seasoned broker and a seasoned broker?
Oh, sure. And I'm actually going to throw in something that complements the pre-license class and how I ended up in this space. So one of the things that I was interested in, I mentioned earlier that the pre-license is a total of 75 hours. And that's usually 60 hours, could be self-study, it could be whatever, and then 15 hours of actual something that looks like a classroom. It has to be interactive, whether that's online or something of that nature. Truly, the real reason that I was interested in teaching pre-license is I wanted to do the interactive. I just wanted to do the mindset piece. I wanted to do the goal setting piece. And that's a lot of what interactive is we talk about how to apply what it is that you've learned. So for me, I wanted to be able to offer up that portion of it. And I realized during the time that we were sheltered in place, or that we were stay-at-home order, I was like, well, what can I do not only to up my game as an instructor, but what can I do to add to my consulting? What can I do to add value? How can I help people build their teams and build their leadership? So that was when the universe, God, whatever you believe in, I actually happened upon the John Maxwell team. And I was, during that, I've always read his books and I've always known he's an amazing author. So during the shelter in place or the stay-at-home order, I wanted to do something to up my game. I already knew that I enjoyed teaching the goal setting. I enjoyed teaching mindset, but I knew that coming out of this situation, global pandemic that we find ourselves in, I wanted to add more value in a tangible fashion earlier and coming out or going through the COVID situation. So because of that, I became a speaker, trainer, and coach with the John Maxwell team, and I mentor with John sometimes. I mentor with the president of the John Maxwell group, John Maxwell team. So I really now get a chance to do the additional step and help people prepare for their life as an agent, or to help managing brokers train their teams, or work with companies that might not even be realtors or real estate specific. And when we know that you have the 45-hour post license, that's basically going to be on your license law, escrow, fair housing, all the basic core concepts, and probably some updated applied thing, the interactive piece. I wanted more. I wanted to do more, even though I love real estate and I've loved it since I was 5. The important of the mindset is, especially during this time we've had to pivot, a lot of businesses have pivoted. A lot of us would have ever expected that we would be online doing most everything remote when we came from a live environment. So teaching people how to, and their managing brokers will help too. So I never step on a designated managing broker's toes, but learning how to get leads yourself. If it's a bonus, if your company gives you leads, learning how to keep a mindset of a self-employed person versus a W-2 earner, totally different experience. Reading books, making sure I had a coach, I coach others now. Honing your leadership skills. If you're a broker owner, then developing leaders around you to help you actually have an exit strategy. So, or at least a leverage strategy. So your whole entire life isn't every day, in that brokerage world. Sometimes people want to do other things. They want to leverage themselves. They want to diversify their businesses. So that's, it's really important to continue to learn. You have the part that you have to do from the state of Illinois, but then I think there's also an opportunity to grow inwardly so you can give more out, because, if you don't pour anything in there, we can't give from an empty vessel. If we've got nothing, how can we service our clients? If we've got nothing, right, how is it possible for us to add value to those around us? It takes a lot some days, depending upon your buyers, your sellers, other agents. It takes a lot sometimes to be able to continue to have the right attitude, stay positive, give out positive support. And then, of course, at the same time, juggle being profitable. So I am definitely about learning long-term. Growth is intentional. And leaders right now, more than ever, are stepping up and leading their companies and leading themselves. Unfortunately, I get to help a lot of people do that. So it's exciting.
It's exciting. And, Kimberly, I want to say it's been great to have you on the show. I want to thank you so much for your time. And if anyone wants to get a hold of you, what is the best way for them to reach you?
Okay, great. Well, my name is my email. It's Kimberly Trimmel, and I'll spell it Kimberly, Trimmel, T like Tom, RIMMEL @gmail.com. I'm currently working on Kimberly Trimmel at kimberlytrimmel.com, but that's in the works. And my website is my name, kimberlytrimmel.com. kimberlytrimmel.com. And yeah, so if you email me at my name at kimberlytrimmel@gmail.com, that'd be great. And if you want to reach me out to me by phone, just tell me how I met you, which that would be the podcast. And I look forward to welcoming any conversations. And so any way that I can service y'all, it'd be great. It's a great business. You'll never be bored. And learning is a lifetime experience.
Fantastic. Well, Kimberly, thank you so much again. It's been a pleasure.